Welcome to Jesus Changes Everything, a daily podcast dedicated to providing a fresh look at the ancient and glorious truth that Jesus not only reigns, but is busy about the business of bringing all things under subjection, that celebrates the wonder and the glory that he has been given all authority in heaven and on earth.
It's time once again for another Forever Friends segment, and today I would like to thank the Lord for a friendship that I had while I was in college. It didn't last a particularly long time, but it was, it was a gift. It was something very pleasant in my life. This particular friend was in my circle of friends, and certainly not the one that I was closest to among that circle of friends, but we had a sort of connection. We both had some interest in some of the same things and also had quite similar senses of humor. His name is Kenn Fetterman. And Kenn, after he graduated from Grove City College, went on to Bowling Green University, where he pursued a master's degree in pop culture. At the time, that was the only university in the country where you could get such a degree, and it was very fitting for Kenn, because one of the things that we had in common was in interest in, I guess you would say, pop culture, that we, had an interest in music and movies. In fact, Kenn and I drove down from Grove City to Pittsburgh to the Art House Theater there in Pittsburgh and watched some Ingrid Bergman film. I can't remember its name, but it's pretty well known. I didn't really care for it, whatever it was. It was over my head, but that's the kind of thing Kenn and I would do. I would always borrow his Rolling Stone magazine and read, and we would share each other's records and things like that. But there's also, again, this sense of humor that I think is profoundly, deeply influenced by the broader culture. We could be really cynical, and we could also really enjoy plays on words. And this was not a deep personal connection. This particular friend, it wasn't, and neither was I. Neither one of us were particularly open people in general. But there was, again, this enjoyment of this time together, of conversation. It was like, certainly scaled down by 98%, but it was like, talking with him was like being in our own little, Oscar Wilde play or something like that. We're just, with snappy comebacks and plays on words and puns and he would get them. He was literary enough to get literary allusions that all my sciencey friends didn't get. And he was also, by the way, from Pittsburgh, and that's always a plus for friendships with me. I don't know where Kenn is these days. We lost track when I was in grad school at the University of Mississippi, and he was at Bowling Green. I know at some point he was managing a movie theater. I guess, that would call that part of being in his field. But I'm going to see if I can track him down. Again, the name's not that unusual, though it's not that common either, I guess. Maybe I'll have some luck tracking him down. This is, again, what I'm trying to do with this series. I want you to understand that you don't have to have only a gratitude for the deepest, longest lasting, most shocking friendships. God's gifts can sometimes be comparatively small gifts, and yet we still have the responsibility and the duty to be grateful and to praise him and give thanks. I am grateful to God for just every one of those conversations. There's something about them that to some level built up my own sense of social comfort. I'm very much an introvert and very much uncomfortable with people unless it's a huge crowd. Then I'm okay. But, I got loosened up through those conversations with Kenn. And there's music that I still enjoy that he introduced me to. And so, as always, let me finish this particular segment with a bit of encouragement for you. I'm asking you to do two things. One, reach out to some friends that you've had, maybe that you haven't had any contact with in a long, long time. And you don't have to restart the friendship. You don't have to rehash any hardships that might have happened. All I want to suggest that you do is just let that person know, hey, I remember you. I remember the good times that we had together. And I praise the living God for that time and that relationship that we have. I want you to do that. And I want you to let me know how that goes. You can always contact us wherever you're listening to this. There's almost certainly a comments section there. Or you can send me an email at hellorcjr@gmail.com. hellorcjr.com@gmail.com. And Kenn, if you're listening, I hope this gives you a laugh and a sweet memory. I hope you are well. That will be all for today's Forever Friend, but there's still more to go in the coming weeks. I remember it like it was yesterday. I was doing some work in my father's office at Reformed Theological Seminary. And out in the hallway, there was another student who I didn't know well at all. But I knew he was a student, and he was talking with someone in the administration and fighting back tears. He was having a real struggle because he had just discovered that day that he was going to be losing his house in Orlando, and he just the week before lost his house in New Jersey. He was explaining to this administrator that he just doesn't understand because he felt led by God to come to seminary, and he didn't have all those ducks in a row, but he trusted God, and the end result was that he lost both of these houses. And I remember thinking, in a really unsympathetic way, I look back at it with shame, but I remember thinking, maybe the fact that you couldn't afford to come was a good sign that it wasn't God's will for you to come. That is God's revealed will. Obviously, it was God's ordained will that he should come. Well, as I look back on that day, now some 30 years ago, I think about how difficult it is for us to separate our circumstances from God's will. We're rightly so. I think often we often use what's the word for it? Providence as a way to read what God wants us to do. But sometimes we accept as givens things that maybe we shouldn't accept as givens. In fact, when I look back at that conversation, I think, why was it that this poor fellow who had a home and a family and a job felt like he needed to pack up and move and come to a city without a job to go to seminary in order to prepare to be a minister of the gospel? Maybe that's the wrong part of the equation. Well, that's part of our thinking as we're getting ready within a few weeks now to open up the Shepherd's College. We believe that not only should you not have to pack up your family and leave and move to another city, but that it's probably not the best thing for you to do. That we're much better off preparing for gospel ministry when we are at home and in our home church and providing for the financial needs of our family, which is precisely what the Shepherd's College is designed to do. We want to help people prepare men for gospel ministry, and as we've talked about many times in the past, We believe that looks like something very different from what the seminary does. The seminary is much more academic and sort of driven to prepare men to be apt to teach, rather than being more concerned about a man's character. And we want to be the opposite. We want to be concerned about character. But we're also distinct in that we believe it's better for a man to prepare in a relationship. It's better for a man to prepare in the pursuit of discipleship. It's better for a man to prepare in the context of his own real life, rather than an ivory tower, which is one place where you might come in. You see, we are keeping our fees profoundly low. You can come to the Shepherd's College and it will cost you $150, I think, for a credit hour. It's like a third of what it would cost to go to seminary. And we have some, not a lot, we have some scholarship money available, but we would like to have more. We would like people to be able to come and be trained through the Shepherd's College without having them face deep financial difficulty, which is why I'm asking you for your support. I'm asking you to please prayerfully consider coming alongside both these future pastors, their future congregations, and the Shepherd's College. If you would commit to give monthly, whatever you can afford, it would make a difference in multi-generations of lives. It's a really easy process. You just have to go to rcsproulJR.com. There's a donate button there. It takes you to the National Christian Foundation website, which is where you can leave your donation for us. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. I'm really excited. I'm having trouble sleeping at night. So eager am I to get to the opening of the Shepherd's College. And I want to show, not only do I want to do this, not only do I want to succeed, I want to show the world that this can be done and be done well. Will you help us do that? Will you come alongside the Shepherd's College, come alongside these shepherds, keep them with their families, keep them at home, and help them learn in a context of discipleship? Pray about that, please, with earnestness and honesty. Thank you for listening. We must pass down to the next generation strong churches. I had a friend once who told me about his first day at seminary. All the young men were gathered together, and the president of the institution came to address them. He began, as one might imagine, by extolling the virtues of the institution where he served. Then he took a dramatic turn. "A day is coming," the president said, "when you would be wise to disassociate yourself from this seminary." Here was a man well acquainted with the problem that I call institutional entropy. Institutional entropy affirms that all institutions tend toward apostasy. Yale University was opened because of dissatisfaction with the turn Harvard was taken. Princeton followed soon on its heels. It stayed faithful for many generations, but eventually it too went the way of all flesh, and Westminster Seminary was formed. My friend's seminary split from Westminster. That's just seminaries. We might also present as Exhibit A the Roman Catholic Church, circa 1517. We know that Jesus promised us that the gates of hell would not prevail against his church. He also, however, warned that some churches would have their lampstands removed, that wolves would infiltrate many bodies, that which was grafted onto the one tree could in turn be cut off. The church cannot fail. Churches always do. Trouble is, when a church falls, too often she carries saints down with her. Entropy sets in, and we stay glued in our pews. Our calling, then, is twofold. We must labor to be certain that our children do not find themselves stuck in the mausoleums built to honor our honorable dreams. We must teach them not to stay in unfaithful churches because their parents were married there or buried there, because they were baptized there and there came to the Lord's table. Of course, we must also teach them to distinguish between sin common to all churches and gross institutional infidelity. We must give our children the same warning the seminary president gave to his young charges. We must also, however, be diligent to build faithful churches, not only for the sake of our own souls, but for the sake of the souls of those who come after us. We must build churches that, for whatever secondary distinctives they might hold to, are defined by their commitment to the gospel of Jesus Christ. We must hand down churches built for His glory rather than our own. We must leave an inheritance of loving fidelity and a disdain for the things of the world. We must, as we lead the church of today, think through the implications of our choices that they will have on the churches of tomorrow. My father grew up in a neighborhood church. His father served as an elder there. But when my father returned home from college and told his pastor that the good news of Jesus Christ had found him, the pastor replied, "If you believe in the resurrection of Jesus, you're a damned fool." The Spirit has left that church, and so has my family. May God be pleased to bless us with institutional churches that are faithful for generations. Or may He bless us with children who will know when to shake the dust off their feet.
You've been listening to the Jesus Changes Everything podcast, a production of Dunamis Fellowship, the teaching outreach of Dr. R.C. Sproul Jr. If you've enjoyed this podcast, we encourage you to subscribe, which you can do at all the usual outlets, to tell your friends, and to spread the word. To learn more about the work of Dunamis Fellowship, please visit rcsproulJR.com. And join us next time on Jesus Changes Everything.